Do I leave it all behind? It's eating all my precious time. My head is in the clouds cause it's so heavy on my mind.
What's up, everybody? It's your homeboy, The Identity Crisis, and my brand new single, Leave It All Behind, just dropped. The link is in the description. And I'm here with some very, very, very influential guys on me, some heroes of mine, and they happen to be on this song. I've got Bonafide and Coffee Jones representing the legendary Grits crew. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining me.
For
Oh
sure, man.
man, no problem. Our
Now,
pleasure.
Bonafide, whereabouts are you located right now?
I am in Minnesota. I'm actually outside of Minneapolis in a more rural area, out kind of like what they call Bethel. I actually live in a small city called Linwood, but it's right next door up against Bethel. But yeah, I'm right outside of Minneapolis, man.
Right on. And Coffee, where are you at right now? Where you at, Coffee?
Right.
Nashville, Tennessee, man. Always, man. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm home. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go back to the beginning. I actually met you guys circa like 1998. I know that Factors of the Seven had just dropped a year before that, and I met you guys in Buffalo at a festival called Kingdom Bound
Yeah,
in
Kingdom
yeah.
Bound
Darien
in
Lake.
Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo,
Buffalo.
good old
Yeah.
Buffalo. It was cool because you guys were so approachable, and I was a kid, I was a teenager, and I was still in high school, and I had chopped it up with you guys, and that album I had bought the year before, and at the time I was listening to Tribe Called Quest, I was listening to Wu-Tang, I was listening to Smith and Wesson, and you guys were like blowing my mind with the sounds. So why don't we go back to what got you guys in love with hip hop in the first place? What was the artist? What was the album? And what was the era?
That's a loaded question, man. I started with b-boying, you know what I'm saying? Just when like Run DMC, Sugar Hill Gang was cool, you know what I'm saying? So it was like that sound started to come out, you know. But what really just kind of blew my mind and took me over the edge was when the Run DMC came because it was just so hard. It was just like dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 and they was rapping over that. And I was like, yo, I'm like, okay, this is nuts. And then, it took some years just starting grits or whatever. I mean, we toured with DC Talk. We were background dancers for like almost 9 years before we did our first record. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a build up, went from street dancing to choreographed dancing on tour, traveling, just seeing influences like all over the world, man. And yeah, I mean, hip hop was just our thing. Even though, those around us weren't into it like that, but we was out with a bunch of white dudes. So it was new. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like now everybody, I mean, it's just universal. I mean, you see all the Kendrick Lamar videos and people dancing to it. I saw one with a bunch of old ladies doing his Super Bowl dance. That old white suburban ladies. And they was on point. Like they killed it. One day he had blue hair like Marge Simpson. And she crushed it. I was like, whoa. I was like, this is dope. You know what I'm saying? Just to see our culture and our music. And when I say our music, I'm saying hip hop as a whole just influenced the world. By the time we started working on our first record, we had no clue what direction we were going in. I mean, it wasn't no model of what we were doing. It was like so experimental. I mean, we were broke. We were still in studio time from like, what was that band? 95 South? Because Teron and I was taking Greyhound bus to Jacksonville from Nashville. That's like a 15-hour drive or something crazy on a bus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And we would get there, and our boy Mo, he was doing some production, I guess, with them. When they would leave the studio, I mean, the studio would just be open. So we get a call at like 10 p.m. and we'd sneak in there and get what demos done to like 4 in the morning or whatever, 4 or 5, and then crash out before those dudes came back in. So they had no clue we was in there. But the space was paid for already. So yeah, free studio time. Bam.
For me, it kind of was. And that's just only because I'm a little bit older than Carl, but not by much. But for me, it was like Sugar Hill as a kid, like hearing that the first time as a kid. And I was like, man, what is this? From that, it grew to a love for I always had a love for listening to music as a whole. So when I heard Sugar Hill, it was on the radio. It was at a time in my life where my mom was dating a guy who was a radio DJ, radio personality. So for me, it was like music as a whole. But from the time that I heard Sugar Hill, then I always had an interest in hip hop and in rap. Then as it grew, then my palette grew to really love, and I really latched on to Rakim. So Rakim is my number one all-time favorite and was my pretty much my biggest, I would say, influence, just because of the way that he wrote. You know, it was like always is like very intellectual, spiritual, but yet it was still dope. You know what I'm saying? It was like really, and of course the way he spit, I mean, just the way he came off the with authority. It was just like his whole thing. I was like, yes. Rakim. And then from there, it grew from Rakim to definitely appreciating LL, Cool J. And then, of course, I mean, I loved the Beastie Boys. I was like, oh, they are so dope. So my palette was all over. And then it grew from that to, of course, like you said, going into then after that era, because shortly after that era, then you had your Brand Nubians and then your tribes and, the whole native tongue movement. You mentioned Smith and Wesson. Yep. I loved Smith and Wesson, Buckshot, like East Coast, which, we all had a strong East Coast influence because of course, that's the birthplace. That's the Mecca. Everything coming out of there was like always an influence. But me being from Florida, I had such an array of a palette because while East Coast is going on, you had people in Florida going on like DJ Magic Mike, you had MC Shan in Atlanta. Like, so there's a lot of Southern hip hop going on at the same time, but they not getting the play in New York. But there was a whole lot of music going on in the South at the same time while all these other legendary groups were going on in the East. Is being such a mix like that, man. It was like I just really was able to really consume a lot of music and a lot of great legendary groups all at once versus being only exposed to, just East Coast or only just getting West Coast music, stuff like that. So when we came out, it wasn't no direction. It was like, no, it was just the culture. Definitely heavenly jazz influence just because that was just like the platform for more openness, especially with hip hop. We did a song called Jazz. That hook on the first record is like, jazz is the mother, hip hop's the child. She died and revived now, child's running wild. Grits is the tool of hip hop is nation, sent to teach those of truth and creations, which is very kind of like almost a tribe, daylight influence, but definitely given that history of just how we just were influenced by music. Cause, from even like Koff said with Run DMC, they kicked the door open for that rap rock influence, having all of these different ingredients and mixed in the music. And then us just being music lovers ourselves anyway. I mean, we never really said, okay, we're going to sound like this. It was like, nope, we're just going to do good music and make sure that, we come to the table as songwriters and as MCs, just like make sure we're meeting that bar that the culture would accept us, not any particular audience.
Funny you mentioned that song, Jazz. Probably my favorite joint on Mental Releases. It was a Native Tongues kind of vibe.
Yeah. It totally. Yeah, we weren't ashamed to allow our influences to show. We didn't like copy people, but we definitely wanted people to know that, we were influenced by the culture and no matter what song we did, you know what I'm saying? Because we wanted people to connect to it.
And that first album was primarily a New York kind of sound. Producers were Todd Collins and was Mo Henderson on that as well?
Yep.
Yeah. Mo's been with us from day one. Todd Collins was more of like the lead producer when it came to like the first record. And I would say on Factors of the Seven, me and Mo, as far as the production direction part of it, we kind of took over that. But then our DJ Form, he had a lot to do with like when it came into with the team as far as that programming on beats and stuff like that. Because we were so used to working with ourselves, between me, Koff, and Mo, and then whoever or any other producer, we weren't really big on like just letting some producer come in and just take over the record. We've always been co-producers of the records, the sounds, songs. We almost ran into a little snafu in the beginning just because we're not industry, we're just the artists. It had gotten to the point, I think, on Mental Releases where we definitely were wanting some different sounds and where I think the label wanted us to go a certain direction sound wise, but we knew where we wanted to go. By the time we did Factors, we had basically kind of part ways with Todd as a lead producer on the project. Not that we wouldn't work with him. And then by then, I think Verbs came around. And so he started working on Verbs' record, which opened the door for us to start really kind of lead that production side of the group and the sound. And that's why every record sounds different. You know what I'm saying? Mental to Factors to Grammatical to Art of Translation. Like we always pushed the envelope when it came to sound. We didn't want to be pigeonholed. We didn't want to be locked into a certain type of genre. We wanted to just be a huge part of the culture and make a huge contribution by being who we were and who we are. And I mean, it's still like that to this day.
That's what I noticed when I first dug into Factors of the Seven. There were vibes kind of from all over. Influence wise, it was so different. Alcoholic Plagiarism, I remember,
Yeah.
started getting played on BET. And I was
Yep.
like, yo, these guys are starting to make some moves. I'm from Mississauga, which is just outside of Toronto. Right around like 1998, 1999, I remember seeing Gangstar. They were in
Yeah.
town. I think they were playing a show and they were doing some interviews. So they were on Much Music, which is our MTV, and they
Yep.
were on TSN, which is our ESPN. Rest in peace, Guru. DJ Premier was rocking a Grits 7 t-shirt. I remember seeing it back in the day and I was like, wow. These guys are making some connections. They're
Primo,
making,
yeah.
yeah. So I gotta ask, how close were we to getting Grits on a DJ Primo beat?
Man, I mean, you know what? We could have made that happen. It's one of those things where this is where you get into like label politics. For Goatee, it didn't make sense for them to get Primo to do a record if we wanted him to. Like if we wanted him to them, it didn't make sense to pay the money for it. Cause then you gotta think about the financial aspect of it. To us, it would have been totally worth it. But to them on the business level as a label and them being primarily in the Christian industry, even though we were getting played everywhere, it wasn't just the Christian industry. Actually, all of our play was outside of the Christian industry
Right.
because they didn't play us on. We didn't get play on Christian radio and gospel radio. That's why
Not
we
at all.
never really toted that flag like that because that wasn't our intention. And we never got that type of support anyway. Now, of course, because of our lyrical content and us, our lyrics being definitely like more of a faith base or whatnot, and us being just, self-proclaimed men of God. Yeah. But to us, we weren't doing anything different from Rakim, being 5%, Tribe Called Quest, De La, or everybody, but that was hip hop. Everybody talked about what they believed and they just represented what they were, but it wasn't part of the marketing. And so that's how we were. We're like, we're not trying to market this. This is just who we are, and this is the music we love. But as the years went by now, we probably could have went back and got Primo, like by the time we got to like Art of Translation and stuff like that. By then, just because we had proven ourselves with Goatee and we had to twist their arms on a lot of stuff, man, because it was a lot of stuff that we wanted to do that was big for the culture that they just was like, well, that doesn't make sense business wise. And we're like, dude, we're a hip hop group. We put out vinyl. Can you please put out vinyl? And they're like, well, finally they did it. Now, till this day, Joey actually owns a vinyl company. It was a lot of stuff that went on with us that we really had to fight for our whole careers, like all that mainstream stuff. And that was just us fighting to be in the right circles, whether it was a big convention in Miami for hip hop or somewhere in Nashville. Like that was us just fighting to be there and making them spend the money for us to do it. And then people like Primo wearing the t-shirt. Well, that kind of stuff just happened organically because we were in the right places at the right times and people just noticed us and then they was digging the music.
Now, I do know that you did collabs with Cannabis. You got Talib Kweli on a track on the Here We Go remix. Did that come out officially?
No, politics again. His label wouldn't let us put it out as a single. They was like, y'all can do the song, but you can't put it out as a single. That's the crazy thing about it is we were wrapped up in a lot of politics during our time and during our era. We were in the time where we were breaking ground that a lot of guys stand on today. It's nothing to hear NF or Lecrae or any, what I'm saying? It's nothing to see these guys, Andy Mineo and all these guys be on these major platforms. But what we were doing back then, we were basically breaking the concrete for that to be able to happen. It didn't happen back then.
Yeah, we opened the door for all that. Once we hit the Fast and Furious movies, and I mean, it took on a life of its own outside of the Christian world, which was cool with us. We didn't mind at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, we skipped over radio politics and in major films, you know what I'm saying, with major stars. The Fast and Furious franchise, you know what I'm saying, they're up to what, 10,
Yep.
11?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a $1 billion franchise.
Yep.
Yeah, they driving cars on the moon at this point. It's like, all right, it's like, where y'all gonna go with it next? But I'm like, yeah, but I'm not mad at it because it's a monster franchise.
Yeah.
Big Mama's House 2, Martin Lawrence, and those are great names to be attached to. I'm not mad at it at all, and the fact that the success that we have had without radio, period.
Video was our radio. Remember that? We were the only ones. We would always fight it because they would. Now, Goatee would shoot a video with us, but they wouldn't do radio though. So we would always fight to do videos. And the last time I checked, we're the only artist that they ever signed that did as many videos as we did. I think we did we ended up doing like 7 videos with them throughout the span of our career, being signed with Goatee. And no other artist that they've ever signed has done more than we have. We've done the most.
Well, yeah. So, like I mentioned, I remember seeing Alcoholic Plagiarism getting played on BET, and I believe What Be Going Down, and it was a medley
Hopes
between
and
What Be
Dreams.
Going Down
About
and
what
Hopes
be
and
going
Dreams.
down. Wow.
I remember seeing that on BET as well. And then leading up to Grammatical Revolution, you guys performed on Teen Summit on BET.
Yep.
I remember seeing this as well. I have this all on VHS. It's crazy. I'm a hardcore fan. I don't know if you guys realize this.
Send me a copy of that, man.
You performed They All Fall Down on that performance, and that was before the album dropped. And then when the album dropped, that video got regular rotation on MTV. What was that transition like? How did that happen? How did that come about? How did it reflect on what you guys were doing at the time?
By the time we did All Fall Down, that was when we kind of realized, hey man, we got to dive into videos. We really kind of helped really build that whole concept and got together with Eric. I think Eric Welch was the guy who filmed that first one. We kind of got together with him and really collabed together. And when we really realized, like, man, video is the way we got to go because we're having a really good impact, especially after having Alcoholic on BET. That opening the door for MTV. That was during the time when video was everything, actually. So, radio was big, but video was big too. And so we just found our niche and really rolled with the video thing, since that was the only way that we could kind of get through the Goatee. But it was also a good way for us to be able to showcase us and show people our videos, and they would take us serious when they see our video because they'd be like, okay, yeah, this is a good video. If we were at a mainstream radio convention or something like that and we were able to show a video, yeah, people took us serious.
Now, direction-wise, that album, Grammatical Revolution, was when I think you really started finding your sound, because that was one of the most diverse albums that ever came out by industry standards. There was some rock on there. There was some like country vibes. There was like obviously the boom bap, but there was like a Dirty South thing happening, and it was it was so diverse. That album in particular really stands out for me, and I think it was kind of the template for the next album.
Yeah. Oh, it was.
And that album was the one that put you guys on the map.
On that record is where we started learning to develop the concept of a project as a whole. We had been in the industry and we were starting to understand more how to structure a record. Everything was thought out, even into the packaging on the CD cover, the CD booklet or whatever. At that time, it was a booklet, it was like pages, you pull it out and, you could read a story, you know what I'm saying? The images, we took those pictures downtown. I mean, we look like CIA, undercover FBI, you know what I'm saying? But that was all planned out, you know what I'm saying?
Bonafide had this ballin' leather jacket,
jacket,
and you had a coffee that you were holding. You guys looked like you were doing some spy stuff.
And that was the concept of what we wanted to kind of give people, that Matrix type, very spy, kind of like low key, like we coming. But
hide in plain sight, something like that.
There it is. There you go. There you go, Koff. Hiding in plain sight. That's the concept that we took with that record, because we felt like, okay, this is how we're gonna make our introduction to the world. We gotta hide in plain sight, and we gotta be there, right in the middle of everything. And that's why we kind of went that direction with the packaging. Hence why I'm holding a coffee. It's like just like looking like the normal dude, but not really the normal dude that's just out there.
I saw you guys at that same festival. You were getting ready to drop Art of Translation, and there was like a 2 or 3 year break in between. And I was like, yo, what's going on? Is there a new record coming out? And you're like, yeah, we got something coming out. But you were kind of just playing it cool. And I knew that something big was going to come. And this album has that track that everybody has heard. If you've ever been on Instagram or TikTok, I hear this song once a day. Ooh, ah, my life be like. I hear it once a day. I've heard a story that, Koff, you didn't like the way your voice sounded on that song.
Nah, I hated it. Yeah, I mean, but because at the time it wasn't like how hip hop is now. Like now, it's you can sing and because remember when 50 and Ja had that beef because Ja was singing on records or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it was before then. So it was just like it wasn't like the cool thing at that time.
Right.
And I just simply didn't like my voice because I wanted somebody else to re-sing it. I just came up with the concept. Everybody got to the studio late and I'm plucking on the piano. I can't play piano. I'm just sitting there. I'm bored. I'm just sitting there like tick, tick, blink, blink, blink. And I'm like, ooh, ah, ooh. And they start filing into the studio. Everybody showing up. They overheard me doing it. They were like, you need to get in the booth and do that. So I'm like, all right, I'll mess around with y'all or whatever, but I'm just playing. I'm just letting y'all know. And I go in there, record it. I go in there, record it, and I'm like, okay, and everybody was just like, oh, just kind of going crazy about it. But I'm like, I just pictured a female coming in and just redoing it, on the right notes. And so once the song was said and done, and they kept the vocal on there, I was like, I was pissed. I ain't gonna lie, I was angry. I mean, and we at that time we had a process when we finished songs, and we would record like a certain amount of songs, just say 20 songs. We had to pick 12 of the best ones out of the batch. Everybody had to vote on it. So we're sitting in the office, Toby, Joey, everybody who was a part of that record, and fill out the sheet. Pick your song, turn it in, and everybody hands down wanted that song. I gave the song a big fat hell no. I was I got outvoted. And I remember leaving the studio. I was so angry. I was almost in tears. I was fighting mad. I'm driving angry. You shouldn't do that, And I mean, now that it's said and done, I'm so thankful. I mean, that song's paid my bills for the last 5 years, so I ain't tripping.
Probably 20 years.
Right.
20 years, but I'm just saying, with us not touring, what I'm saying, like how we were, and it's still performing like super crazy.
Yeah.
So, sitting at home, I'm okay off that song. I mean, our other songs are great too. Don't get me wrong. I feel like we've done a lot of great songs.
Yeah.
But they ain't performing like, ooh,
we had to trick him into recording it the way he did it. We was just like, okay, yeah. Go ahead. Do one more line of that. Okay. Do another one. Do a different octave. And then he's like, hey, y'all know I ain't gonna be singing this. We're like, yeah, we know. And we just kept getting him to layer it and layer it. And then so once we got it where we wanted it, it was like, yeah, we're gonna use this. And so they was like, depending on me, they's like, boom, you got to convince Koff. I'm like, man, I'm like, I'm gonna do my best. I was like, man, but we really was in love with that song. But it took a lot to convince Koff, and I mean, it was a lot. Finally, in the end, he was like, well, all right, man, I trust y'all. I trust you. I mean, if y'all say it's cool, then it's cool. And even as hard as we fought for it, Goatee never released it as a single. They never let us shoot a video for it. They just kind of pushed it to the background. And then when the opportunity came up for Fast and Furious, like, well, that wasn't even the first movie. I think was Big Mama's House the first one?
No, it was Something's Gotta Give with Jack Nicholson.
Something's Gotta Give with Jack Nicholson. You're right.
That was our first time like in a movie, like our music in a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it exposed all the other, a few other songs to people who were kind of shopping for placements. And so then when they picked Ooh Ah, I was like, that's the one. But we didn't know until the movie came out. But that's how it works in film. You never know until the movie
came out. And then and before the record dropped, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, man, if this song come out and the world hear it and they laughing at me, I said, I'm gonna kill somebody. Like, I mean, I was nervous about that record coming out with that song on it. Like, I really was.
Yeah, he definitely was.
Man, I didn't know how it was gonna be perceived or taken.
Right.
So, but when it came out, all across the board, they loved it. So I was like, all right, if y'all love it, I love it. So I just left it at that.
And now you look at culture, everybody's singing.
Right.
And even the ones that can't sing is actually singing. So
you see how black folks just get in your interview, don't ask or nothing. They be like this.
We're not used to technology. We only saw this stuff on the Jetsons.
The Jetsons, wow.
What's hilarious to me is that everybody else heard something in that hook, and Koff, you didn't hear it.
My mind was too flooded with just hearing me singing, so I wasn't paying attention to nothing else. That was my main concern, period. Like, I couldn't hear nothing else because I refused to hear something else, I hear it now, you know what I'm saying? I hear I totally hear it now.
DJ Madge posted about it. He said that that's actually the most streamed CCM song of all time. I know that it's actually even Toby's biggest song, which is crazy because he's got his storied career and he's got his previous career with DC Talk. But Ooh Ah is the biggest, most streamed CCM song of all time. How does that feel, gentlemen?
I didn't know until Toby's manager came up to us during GMA week. The night before the Doves, we played a show at Rocket Town. We were doing the sound check, and he told me that news. So in my mind, I'm like, okay. And then he was like, More Than Mercy Me, which is a huge deal. They were that group. I'm like, hold on. I said, out of all of CCM, we got the most streamed song. I couldn't believe it. I've never heard any of that until he said that to me some months ago. It's surreal. Like, even now, when I think about it, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm almost like, I don't believe it.
And what makes it unbelievable for us is because we lived throughout the whole process, and CCM never showed us love like that. Our whole career was lived through politics, man. You know, it's kind of like going through civil rights movement all over again for us.
Right.
Musically, we were always fighting for a position, fighting to be heard and all of that. And then now, at the end of the day, when it comes after the fact, if you look at the accolades and if you look at the numbers, nobody else really could stand up with us, you know, and not because of anything that we did, but just because all the work that we were putting in, we didn't realize that it was going to give us this type of foundation throughout history. So, I mean, like, history is made and continuing to be made for us every year. Still, 20 years later, as artists, 30 years coming up.
A Mental Releases dropped in 95.
Yep,
and this
95.
is 2025 here.
Oh, it's 2025. Yeah, you're right. It dropped in August. I got the date. I got the original contract. That's a long time, you know,
30 years
to have that type of effect and that type of longevity.
My son is 30 years old, bro.
Wow.
I shouldn't have said that. Now they finna do the math. The most fascinating part about all of that, you know, is this. We have a song that's the most streamed song in all of that world with no video and no radio play. That's the crazy part. Because I guarantee you, everybody else's huge song, big song, they got a video too.
And they had radio.
Yeah, Mercy Me and those kind of groups, yeah, they were all over the radio.
Again, it just takes me back to the fact that everyone else saw the power in that hook and you were second guessing it. I'm glad that you let it go, man. I'm glad that came out. And like I said, I hear it like once a day. If not once a day, like multiple times a week, just scrolling Instagram, scrolling TikTok. It's one of those cross-generational songs because like these kids are posting it in the reels. What is the secret to having a song impact people multi-generationally like that? Because I'm trying to get that with this song that we just dropped.
There's really no blueprint, man. For the most part, you know, if depending on the level of artist you are, I mean, you rely on a marketing team and, you know, to just kind of strategize and know your key markets and, you know, things like that. But other than that, man, it's just a song is a song. You know, it just comes out how it is. It's, you know, especially when you're an artist and you write from, you know, your heart, or you write from an emotion you're dealing with, or just life. You know, it would just impact certain people. When people can identify with the song and identify with, you know, the hook, the lyrics, you know, Ooh Ah to me was like labor pains for just people going through it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, man, you don't know what else to do. You don't know who to turn to. You know, your friends desert you, whatever, you know, family, and, you know, you just turn to God. But at the same time, when you're really dealing with something, you don't know what to say to God. You just praying like, man, just alleviate some of this stress. Like, please just give me something. Give me a sign. Give me whatever it is I really need. And, you know, that's how the hook came about. I wrote that hook on I remember being broke down, you know, and my son was maybe a couple years old. And, you know, I had this old beat up vehicle at the time, wasn't making no real money. And I'm stuck on the side of the road. I had an old beat up Ford Taurus with no heat or air. Middle of summer, it's blazing. And I'm like, you know, I just didn't know what to do. And this was a time before, I mean, I had a cell phone, but I think it was dead or something like that. I mean, yeah. And some stranger, just some old white guy pulled over and he gave us a ride home. I left the car. I was like, I really don't care. And I just got my son out that heat, and you know what I'm saying? And then it just went from there. And we were all like working at the Kroger Deli.
Yeah.
Me, Teron, Verbs, and me, that was our job. But, you know, you ain't making no real money, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you got to pay rent, bills, and yeah, it's just like, man, you couldn't keep up. And so, like, you know, a lot of that just came from pain, honestly. You know, my verse, the whole nine. You know, I wrote half my verse on the side of the road while I was waiting for maybe somebody to stop and help us. Now, with the success of the song, I look back, I was just like, man, that that happened for a reason. Because at the time, I thought God hated me or something, and I was trying to live as righteous as possible, but it was hard. And and I knew friends who was in the street game and doing all this crazy stuff, and I would never do any of that. But in my mind, I'm like, should I?
When you're going through your greatest challenges and pains, sometimes it produces cold. That's how you get diamonds. From the pressure, and that's really what happened. Is like from the pressures that we were facing just as artists and being who we were in the industry as a whole, but definitely dealing mostly with that genre in the industry that we were in. It was like always something, we always felt the pressure up against us, like we were the black sheep. And I think that like Carl said, when you write something that people can relate to, the secret sauce is really just being real. And people feel that when they hear the song, and they know that not necessarily that song, but any song that you write, people relate to songs that they can relate life to, and that they can grab something out from, and where they can picture themselves going through certain things. And the secret sauce is there is no formula except the realities of life itself. And if you're a writer, those words just they come to you, and how they come to you, you lay it out there. That's why I like the joint that we did together. So I'm Leave It All Behind. I'm like, man, I loved it. I fell in love with the hook and the lyrics. When I listened to the lyrics, I was like, man, I gotta jump on this. This sounds like a grit song. Like this sounds like something that me and Koff would have done, because of the way that it was done musically. Everything to me was like, no, this is the perfect song for us to be on, because this is right. This is that level of ooh ah, as far as what I would say. This is how I want a song to come across to people, because it's a dope song, and it's a reality song. Leave It All Behind, just like ooh ah. But the secret is being able to connect with people, but connect it from a real place.
You have no idea what that means to me. That's high praise, man. Thank you so much. I love your verses. I didn't even spit on it, just because I was like, you know what? This needs my heroes on it. I think you not only did it justice, you surpassed what my expectations were. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the joint. It's such a dream come true. That's actually my dream collab, was doing a joint with Grits. My next question for you guys is, who are your dead or alive dream collabs? Let's say money wasn't an issue. Let's say time wasn't an issue. If you had a dream collab that you could fulfill, who would that be?
Any artist, like any genre?
Any genre.
That's a loaded question, bro.
Give me a couple options.
I'll just throw some names out there.
Aside from me.
aside from you, Ellie Goulding.
Oh, yeah.
Sandy Gold.
Sandy Gold, yeah.
I mean, Sting.
Oh, that's a good one.
I got to throw a rapper in there. Andre 3000.
Of course.
I mean, that goes without saying.
But not on his flute.
Either 3000 or Good Him Up. It doesn't matter.
Anybody from Dungeon Family.
Right. Dungeon Family, period. I think we could have rocked something nice with Marvin Gaye.
Oh my God.
I think that could have been, he's known as this sensual dude, but his socially conscious stuff, that's really what people know him from. But like Marvin Gaye, he would have been in a whole nother place in a time, and I believe we would have been able to pull it off, but I could totally see us doing a song with Pac.
Oh my God. That'd be stupid.
I could have totally seen that coming.
It's a video on YouTube where they put Pac on Ooh Ah. They put Pac on there, Exhibit, and Eminem. And when I tell you, it sounded like we were all in the studio together. Whoever did that video is on point. I've watched that video probably 100 times. The verses match perfectly. I mean, they're verses that were from other songs, that they did on their records. But whoever pieced that together, I get chills when I listen to it. I'm like, this is like a dream collab song right here. So when you said Pac, that's the first thing I thought about. And it fits the track so perfectly. And I'm just like, man, that would have been insane to do a song with Pac.
If Pac's on the joint, who's on the beat?
Oh, man. I gotta have me. Man, that's a hard one, because I like Timbo, but
I like Pharrell too.
But yeah, Pharrell. I think Pharrell. And we actually almost had a Pharrell joint. We were real close to getting the Neptunes joint. We were real close. We had some relationships working in our favor, but it just didn't come to full fruition. So,
well, I've actually heard that he's a fan of Grits.
I met Ye back in the day, though, when he was just getting on with Rockefeller. Dropout. What is the album called?
College Dropout.
College Dropout. Yeah, so it was around that time. So, it was just very humble. So I went to see Twister, and he was at that show. He was walking through the crowd. He had his little backpack on. He always had that backpack during those days. And he stopped to chat for a minute, and he said the same thing. He said, man, I want to work with y'all. That's exactly what he said to me. I mean, nothing ever came of it, but it was just cool that he just stopped to talk to me. I gave him my number, which, of course, he never call, but that's industry talk. Have your people call my people. That that BS. So
Well, speaking of deals, like 2008, 2009, you guys embarked on your own journey as label heads. You launched Revolution Art. Tell me about what that process was like and tell me what that experience was like. And you guys offered me a deal. A little secret behind the story
Little
here.
known fact.
we knew cool artists who most likely wasn't gonna get a break, but they were dope. We were just trying to get our foot in the door with these artists, and we just wanted to attach our brand to the artists, so it gave them a little status going in the door. So they didn't have to go in the door just cold. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, listen to my demo. But it was just an experimental. I mean, we just wanted to see where it could go, and and along the way, man, we just forged great relationships and new endeavors or whatever. The industry we were in, they wasn't ready for us. Like he was saying, it goes back to the politics. We had a distribution deal, the whole nine, but nobody was wanting to move on nothing. In that world, you still, even though you have the ideas, you have the heat, you have the great music, you have all that, you still got to rely on the industry to get anything done. But if they ain't checking for you, they just not checking for you. We had one white artist, and that was Annie Peters.
Yep.
And she's on a couple of our records. We met her at a coffee shop, and she was on stage just doing an acoustic thing. Her voice was so crazy. I was like, okay. And she ended up coming to Nashville, recording with us, the whole nine.
We had a very solid roster because we had Annie, we had Jade. Her record was really good. But like Koff said, we didn't have the right industry people in our corner to help push us through the door because the industry is very much about politics. It's very much about who you know and who could get you there. Talent, we had all the talent. Like that was not even an issue. And they were all real artists. They weren't people who we created and we put this group together. It's like, no, these are actually super talented songwriters and musicians. But we didn't have the leverage of the business on our side. Well, if y'all not gonna let us come through the door, would you let these artists come through the door? And we tried to make sure that they were palatable for people to be able to support or want to get behind. If we were too outspoken, okay, here's an artist that is just dope, support them. We still couldn't garner support from people, but I think that's only because we were in the middle of the change of the industry also. Like when the industry went from analog to digital, like pre-MySpace days, all of a sudden then you had Napster, and then it's kind of like the whole industry change went from, okay, we're not going to Tower Records or Sam's Club or wherever you buy music no more. We downloading it. And it's like, what? And then only Walmart is selling music, so on the business side, we were in the middle of a whole industry transition also. I mean, there was a lot of things that we were up against, but it didn't stop us from working with the artists and pouring into them and making sure that they knew that we still had their back. We still supported them and worked with them as much as we could and tried to get them as much through the door. We also been holding on to people and be like, yeah, you for life, you can't go and get another deal somewhere else. Like, no, it was nothing like that. It was like, hopefully some greatness come out of what we've done with you, and if you find something back, go right ahead. I mean, we're not gonna hold you into some deal. If somebody comes along and is able to take you further, you know what? By all means, thanks for letting us be a part of the process. We were just wanting to try to at least give, whoever we worked with the same exposure. Because it was us presenting it, we felt like people would understand that, oh, okay, that like these are real artists. They're not like some concept that somebody put together because they were connected to us.
What is left to accomplish?
Man, a lot, man. I mean, it goes on until you die, man. This is music. This is not like, working at Ford Motor for a certain amount of time and you retire, get your 401k. This is life, and it don't stop because the music is going to live forever. Think about the amazing artists who aren't here with us anymore. You really think people are going to stop listening to Michael Jackson? It's going to be 100 years from now. People are still going to be playing Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Thriller. Right. So I just look at it like that. I mean, for me, I just started Coffee Jones Media Group. I definitely got a music arm because that's what I know. That's what I love. That's what I'm good at. And helping other artists, develop. But I also want to eventually get into film and television. At the end of the day, I want to be a part of major motion pictures. If not doing an actual one myself, I'm cool with being part of a team. Because I don't know how, the politics of that world is. I just know what I see on Instagram. and you can't trust that. It's just an evolution of what we've already started.
Ooh, taught us that it's never done. It's never over. If you've done what you've done from the heart and for real and been blessed enough to where it touches people, it's never over. That's the biggest lesson that All taught me, is that all that work that we did was well worth it. Even when it seemed like there was nothing going on, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of seeds planted that we didn't even realize. That's why as a group 30 years later, we're still sitting around going, dang, and we're still relevant. We ain't did a tour in 20 years, but we're still relevant in the industry. Like, you know, our name still means something and our music still means something, whether we put out new or not. And the crazy thing about it is we probably got about 30 songs that people ain't never heard before unreleased. Yeah. I'm with Carl. It's never over. It's for life. But that's a very privileged position to be in that few people can be in. Even to years now, doing a song with you, that's an honor, you know, because we've been friends for so many years and now we decided to do a song.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that, but that's real though. And the song is dope. I know that people will hear that and they'll feel it and catch on to it too.
Let's hope for another ooh-ah.
Yeah, hey, that's what I'm shooting for.
Hey,
Yeah,
mailbox money ain't bad, man.
If there's anything else you want to plug, the floor is yours.
Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, all the platforms. You know, we're there.
Check out Village Kings too, man. That's another arm of our crew. Factors of the Seven, Know the Verbs and Petty D. You know, those two got together and formed a super group. Yeah, check them out, man. Their stuff is hot, man. It's just as cutting edge as we, you know, as we were. Verbs went to the school of grits. He toured with us for over decades. You know, he knows the inner workings and you know, he knows how to write a song, a hook, all that. He was a sponge with us, you know what I'm saying? So he soaked up a lot of that. So you're going to hear the influence in their music.
And both those dudes can spit. They both have unique voices.
And he always been like that. Petty is my hometown brother, man. We came up together, so we from the same city. He's been with us for a long time too. Like he's been right there with us like Verge for years and years and years playing the background, whether it's on the production and all of that. So yeah, definitely check out what they got going. So,
well, gentlemen, I've taken so much of your time. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again, Grits, Ooh Ah is out. You can stream it wherever you stream your music. And our joint, Leave It All Behind, is out. Stream Leave It All Behind. It is available on all platforms. I'm honored and privileged to be joined on the track that's been blessed by Coffee Jones and Teron Carter, also known as Grits. These guys are a huge influence on me, and I know they're a huge influence on their, 2 million monthly listeners that you guys have, or some crazy like that.
On Spotify, it is crazy.